guys, my name is Anna and I am the owner of Little Wing Sleep. I'm a certified sleep coach and I actually got trained after I had my baby. And the reason why I love doing it is I love to help families. When you are having sleepless nights, you're at the end of yourself and you really don't know what else to do. Trying to figure out how to then get your baby to sleep is really hard, and you need someone to come in and help you, keep you accountable, give you suggestions, and someone who's been through it so many times that they know what's going on. Sometimes you just need the encouragement, but today I want to talk about when you're ready to leave your baby overnight. I'm going to tell you a bit about my story, so get comfy because it is a little different than other parents. You see, I was a bridesmaid 3 times in my daughter's first year of life, actually in the first 8 months of life. It was pretty chaotic, so that's 3 bachelorettes and 3 wedding weekends. I was feeling very overwhelmed when she was born about the prospect of leaving her. I wasn't ready, and the first bachelorette was at about 3.5 months. And so I get a lot of questions about how to prepare to leave your baby with dad or with grandma or with someone else. So I'm going to kind of talk you through what I did and what made me feel better. Now, not every parent is ready to leave their baby at 3.5 months. And I totally understand that. To be honest, if I had the choice, I probably wouldn't have. I didn't really feel ready, but I had to psych myself up for it. So there are a few things that I really learned to do. The first thing is I got grandma and dad to look after her often. I don't like it when we say that dad's babysitting. He's just parenting. But sometimes as moms, we find it really hard to leave baby with dad and go out and enjoy ourselves. So one of the first things I did was to learn to leave her with him. Let him experience what it was like to parent without me around, without breastfeeding being the answer to all of her problems. So I would go out for afternoons, and I think our first date after baby was at about 5 or 6 weeks. And it made me feel way more comfortable because it made me feel confident in grandma. It made me feel confident in my husband looking after our wee one. Not to say that that's necessarily the right thing for you, but I think for me, it would have been a way bigger leap if I had gone from having her being away for 2 to 3 hours and then leaping to 2.5 days. That would have been too much for me. I couldn't have handled that. I needed to work up to it. So at about 5 or 6 weeks, I started to introduce bottles. I wanted to make sure that she felt comfortable taking a bottle and that my baby wasn't going to be starving while I was away. And these little trips out were really helpful in me knowing this. So we started to do 1 bottle every 3 days or so. Even if I was home, then dad would do a bottle, or if grandma was over or auntie was over, just so she got used to a bottle. Doing it every 3-4 days for a bottle is enough for her to maintain that skill, but also breastfeeding being her primary source of food and her preference. So it meant that she was okay taking a bottle, and we kept practicing that skill. The other thing is that I pumped. I pumped a lot. I wanted to make sure that I had more than enough supply in the freezer. I wasn't willing at that point to introduce formula. I wanted to be exclusively breastfeeding, and so I pumped a lot. I did power pumping, and so in the evenings, because my baby slept through the night, I taught her to sleep at 5 weeks, and at about 8-9 weeks, she actually slept through the night by herself. I didn't take the feeds out, she did. And so she would sleep through the night, and I would pump before I went to bed at about 9-10 o'clock. And those pumps were able to give me a really good supply in the freezer, and it meant that she had more than enough food for when I was away. The next thing that I did was actually practice me not putting her down. And this is something that I always focus on with my clients, whether they put it as one of their top 2 goals or not. It is one of my top 2 goals, that anyone who is a safe person can put baby down to sleep. And to make sure that baby isn't reliant on breastfeeding or mom or something that mom controls, so that if mom's not home or dad's not home, then they can't go to sleep. So we did alternating nights between parents, and he would put her down some nights, I'd put her down some nights, but it always meant that I didn't need to be home for bedtime. And so I didn't panic about sleep beforehand. The other 2 things that I really did was I scheduled a lot of skin to skin and quality time in the days leading up. I got really organized for the bachelorette. I was the maid of honor, so I had a lot on my agenda. So I made sure that I had all of that sorted, so that then after that, I was able to enjoy the 2 days beforehand and really focus on that connection time, get a lot of breastfeeding in so that that connection was really strong. And then when I came back, I had put nothing on the agenda for 2 days. We just reconnected, and I was really concerned that she wouldn't go back to breastfeeding after 2.5 days of bottles. And so when I came home, that first feed, I have to admit, was a little bit tough. Just because it's the last feed of the day, bottles are easier for a baby, and she just had 2 days of easy. So we just had to be really patient and work at it. And then the next 2 days, I just exclusively breastfed on demand, except for feeding to sleep. And it got my supply up, even though I had been pumping through that whole time. So while I was away, I pumped at the same regular intervals that she ate, and I kept all of that supply as we went. It's really great to have an electric double pump, because I was able to pump while we drove somewhere or in the hotel room, and so it meant that it was not too much hassle being able to just put the double pump on and be able to pump for 20 minutes. I also pumped longer than she usually would feed so that my supply wouldn't drop. So I tried to build my supply to over what she needed before I left, so that if it did drop, then it would drop to a normal amount of what she needed, and then I kept my supply steady. And then when I came home, I did a lot of cluster feeding when she needed it, so that then we are able to reconnect, and I felt like we got that time afterwards as well. So just keep that in mind. Like, how are you preparing beforehand? If you're feeling really anxious and bound up, then maybe you're not ready to leave your baby for overnight or a couple of days. That's totally okay. I will admit that regardless of whether you're ready or not, or you have to, it's a little scary, but leave them with someone who you trust. My husband is an incredible dad. He really got it nailed down. And so every time I rang, he was like, yeah, she drank this much, she's on her nap routine, like, we're good. And so I didn't need to feel anxious. When the weddings came and everything else came, it was a breeze, because I knew exactly what I needed to do, and we kind of had a routine. It is a little bit scary, so don't be afraid, but take your time. You're a new mom, or you have a new second or third or fourth new baby. That's totally okay for you to say, you know what, I'm going to join this party for the day, but I'm going to be home for night. People understand, but you need to make sure that you're doing the best thing for you and your baby. This was a part of my journey in leaving my little one, and it was emotional, but I'm really glad that I did it. And you know what? The beautiful thing is my daughter and my husband's bond became stronger, and I trusted him more with her. So I hope that this has helped you a little bit, but some tips to be able to help leave your baby.